Immigrant families face numerous challenges related to family dynamics, including integrational conflicts, cultural misunderstandings, and the stress of adapting to a new culture while navigating potential legal hurdles. These challenges can impact mental health, emotional well-being, and family cohesion. Welcome back to another episode of Chatting with Sava the Jordanian on the Mindset Mastery Moments. I'm your host, STJ, and we thought on this episode to bring back a previous guest, Gisselle, and talk about the difference in the family dynamics as a result of the process of immigration and the process after the process of displacing yourself, whether by default or by design. And me and Gisselle have been talking about it, and I thought we would share some of our belief systems that we had to reassess as immigrant in order to serve us better as we adapt into the new world away from our home world. So thank you, Gisselle, for coming back. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm so excited because all I want to do is just talk to you like all day today. So I know we've been going back and forth, and you have done some research on your own. And I have also some of the data or the concepts that I stumbled on, and we can try to cover as much as possible. So one of the specific challenges that I stumbled upon when I did my research, it's called integrational conflict. Integrational conflict is basically talks about the different cultural expectations, the different values, and the different perceptions of immigrants, which can lead to a lot of disagreements between even the generations within your family, particularly regarding traditional gender role expectations and acculturation into the new world. So let's start to talk about why do we need to reassess our belief system and our values as we simulate into the new culture? Obviously, you were born here in the United States. I wasn't. You are of a Christian faith. I'm of a Muslim faith. I come from a very traditional gender role expectations as far as the Arabian society is concerned. You come from, I believe, a conservative cultural expectation too, from the Caribbean part, if I'm not mistaken. So also the circumstances of our parents also causes us to try to adapt certain values being transferred from our parents to us. So I guess my question to you is, now you're a parent, you're not a teenager anymore, you have moved from Brooklyn to Lawrence, Mass, right, and then to New Hampshire, and from my understanding, you wanted a better environment for your child, and that's concerning for you. So let's start about what is the mindset process that you go through as a parent now to reassess that belief system?
Well, the mindset that I have now, I just feel like when I grew up, I couldn't get out of a certain situation. Like, it was always around me, whether it's partying every weekend, drinking, the adults drinking, and the kids running around. Like, I don't want that environment for my son, so I kind of steer away from that, even though it's kind of weird to say. It's like in our culture to do these things, like, partying on the weekend and all the kids are running around and all the adults are drinking. It's not something that I think is appropriate in my mindset for my son now. Looking back, I'm like, wow, there was not one adult that was like actually coherent in these parties that if anything happened to us, and that's not something that I want for my son. That's one example, I guess, also just making sure that he actually strives to do the best he can and whatever he wants. That's something that's very important to me too. I didn't really have that support system. My sister, she's been on your podcast as well, Naomi. She speaks of a different generation because we're not in the same generation. So she got, I feel like, a better part of my parents than what I received, because it was like after a divorce and what I grew up with, not having parents there when I was in sports, things like that. I feel like that's very important for me now as a parent. And I have that mindset, like I have to be there for my kid, that's how I see things now.
Yeah, so it sounds like there is when you came along, there was more an absentee of parenting.
Exactly.
Right. And that, it sounds like it influenced how you looked at the future as a parent to set your son up with a lot more support than what you got. So I always try to spin a positive spin on the events or the experiences that we go through. Is I'm glad you experienced that, because then you have a better expectations from yourself to serve your son.
Exactly.
And I agree with you. I'm one of 5. I have one sister. She's 10 years younger than me. And her environment was completely different than my environment that I grew up in Saudi Arabia. Same parents,
right? Same
marriage, same birthplace, same culture, same language, same religion. But the expectations change when she came along. Right. I was born 69, she was born 79. The whole world was different too. So location wise also, we grew up in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, but the part of Jeddah that I grew up in was a tougher neighborhood than the neighborhood that she grew up in. And that made her experience much, much, much different.
Right.
The funny thing is I'm one of 5. I have 3 brothers, and the boys had kids and the girls didn't. And I wonder if that is a very subconscious, a feeling inside of us that maybe we didn't feel comfortable raising kids because of the experiences that we perceived. But I agree with you with the adults, that generation. The adults didn't pay attention. Nobody cared about us getting hurt or falling or scraping our knee, or our brothers is bullying us, or the neighborhood kids are bullying us. Nobody cared, really. They were not that attentive. Literally, they will release us in the street to play. And then whenever you're ready, you just come home. And if you don't like playing in the street, just come home and watch TV. Yeah. Or do your homework, or read a book, or play with your siblings inside the house. Right. But other than that, nobody came and checked on us. Nobody asked us, who did you play with? What did you say? There is no cell phone.
Do I let Rudell go out and play in the street? Heck no. No. Only if I am able to see him from my window. And it has to be like in a fenced area. That's the only way. And even then, I'm like eerie. Like, I don't want him out there for a long time. It's kind of shameful.
It is very different. It's not like nothing bad used to happen when we grew up. Of course, a lot of bad things happen. Bad things continue to happen, right? But the belief system of our parents was very, very different than the belief system of this generation parenting, because I think our parents planted in us that, you know what you're supposed to do. The difference between right and wrong. They taught us how to pick on the alarming signs of somebody that's, creepy, or somebody that's rude, or somebody that's too bullying for us. And we were taught just how to withdraw ourselves from that group and come home. So there are certain guidelines that my parents, embedded in us, saying that you don't cross that line. If you cross the line, you better be accountable for that decisions because you did not listen.
Right.
And that's a lot of stress on the child, actually, because you have to make that adult decision, but you have the childhood mentality or the child mindset.
Right. It makes you grow up faster.
Yes.
It just puts you to like this, like almost adult like mindset that you don't really want to be at because, you're still a kid, but that you have no choice because it's like embedded in you. You have to make sure no one touches you down there it's just like certain things you got to make sure like you're on top of as a child. And it is stressful. It is very stressful.
It is. And it puts a lot of pressure. And I think it does impact our well-being and our mental health, hoping that, we learn from those guidelines, transferring that power to us, even just taking responsibility. Riddell is the only child, but taking responsibility, as a sibling, I'm the eldest girl. Oh. So when my sister wanted to go play outside, I had to be there and had to be very attentive, like watching her like a hawk, because I played the mother role or the parent role when I was out there at age 11 or age 12. And that's a lot of stress on a kid, because I wanted to play just to be free and no limitation, but I couldn't if I had my younger siblings, because I had to wear the responsible hat, the adult hat that I got to watch for them.
Right.
And like you said, it is definitely a lot of pressure, but I don't know. Is it because our parents grew up that way and they expect us to act that way?
I think so. I think that was like that for my mom as well. So she grew up with a stepbrother, and he was older than her as well. Granted, this is what she told me. Allegedly, he molested her. So her trust in men was very, very, very small. So anything that had to do with us not being around her, if we were going to go to our friend's house and the dad was going to be home, she would always tell us like, make sure you don't go in a room with him, or if he tries to she'll tell us things like that. And they were like, that kind of messed me up mentally a little bit, that I was just like, I don't want to be around a man. Like being a teenager, I don't want nobody to touch me. So that comes from mental health too. That's kind of messing up your mental health as growing up as a young lady, I know it was coming from a good place because of what happened to her, but like you said, it just put the strain on me, as a young adult, No,
my mom was the same way. I mean, my mom comes from a very conservative, traditional tribes of Jordan, and, it's just the really traditional classical gender role expectations. And she used to tell me, if somebody looks at you wrong, especially if it's a male, right. If a male looks at you wrong, he's creepy. Don't even make an eye contact, just walk away. Yeah. If they stop you or ask you for a question or directions, because kidnapping is kidnapping too. I mean, it happened in Saudi Arabia, especially kidnapping boys was a huge, huge challenge in Saudi in the 80s. Wow. And my youngest brother, I remember he was a redhead, and, he was cute as a button. And my mom always watch your brother, watch your brother. And that's a lot of not only physical pressure on us, keeping up with that, kind of, nagging, doubt of, you start doubting everybody, but also mental pressure on us too, how to calculate our moves. What if this happens? And I used to kind of go through a mental practice. If this happens, that's what I'm going to do. If that happened, this is what I'm going to say. And that's a lot for an 11, 12-year-old to be worried about and not feel safe in this space. But yeah, they send us out. in the street. So if you're worried, why are you letting me play outside?
At the same time trying to like give us independence in a sort of way, but that's definitely stressful. I want to touch base on the mental health. We're talking about the immigrant families, particularly those facing legal challenges or experiencing family separation, may experience higher rates of anxiety and depression and other mental health issues. That's anxiety, having to like deal with, a sibling that's younger than you. I didn't even realize that, but I was always around my brother and it was annoying to him. And now that you say that, I'm just like, wow, it's because he always was full of anxiety and stress, making sure that I was okay and he wasn't able to enjoy himself. Now I realize that I'm like, wow, that is anxiety, and it could be depression because he can't do what he wants to do because I'm always around. So I could see that. I could see that definitely.
Well, there's also the fear of not able to perform your duty, right? So I bet you anything, your mom planted in his head, you're the boy, you're the man, protect your sisters, watch for them. And that's a lot of pressure on him because, again, you build a different belief system that I need to question everybody. I need to question everything. I need to watch body language. I need to watch eye contact too. And you start analyzing or profiling people as they walking by. Like I used to sit and watch my sister play, outside, of my brother play outside. I'm constantly watching facial expressions. Maybe that's why I'm always interested in psychology.
Right.
But it's almost like mentally profiling people and judging people. And don't forget that causes or leads to distrusting a lot of people. And that's in your home world. Now, take that concept and after you displace yourself into the new world, the pressure is so high because anxiety is the fear of the unknown, right? Yeah. So not only when you're in your home world, you're not trusting your people, they're made the same, they talk the same, they practice the same things, and they have the same belief system, but there's still so much doubt and deviation from what you believe in and what your family believe in. So take that model and take it into the new world as an immigrant, adding more pressure on it. Not only you are doubting everybody or you're trying to profile everybody to feel safe, to feel comfortable, you are trying to understand different personalities, different mentalities, different nationalities, and trying to say, okay, how am I going to figure out, is that look means this or that look means that? Because it's almost like body language you have to learn all over again when you become an immigrant. But you touch on something, the separation anxiety too, because as you know, whether you emigrate or you migrate, displacement is displacement. When you displace yourself away from your tribe and away from your family support, that separation is, we don't realize how much pressure that puts on and the impact on our well-being, because as immigrant, we have the tendency to mask all that because we don't have time to deal with this because we are here on a mission. We are here to survive and to thrive and to make it and to have a better life. And that's why we left.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean there are no challenges or the misconception that, oh, you're immigrants, they're very strong, nothing bothers you, nothing phases you because, this is better than what you expected. This is better than what you had back home. So any challenges that you face here in the new world, it must be better than what you had. It must be safer than where you were. And that's not necessarily true, though. What do you think?
I don't think that's true. A lot of the times, they come and they assume that because of what is being told to them, before getting to the new world, that it's going to be better. But once they see that it's out of their comfort zone, no one around them, they know everything is new and foreign to them. It's not as comfortable as it seems. I was reading an article, School of journalism and mass communication. They're out of San Jose, California. It's San Jose State University. It speaks about family separations and the reasons. Sometimes it's what's best for the family. They provide the child with better finance for schooling when they come to this country, better fund for housing when they come to this country. This is stuff that they provide for their loved ones coming to the new world. I never knew this, but when a child is migrated to a different country, they're expected to pursue a good education, also working and sending money back home to their families. A term often used for this child in immigration is called a parachute kid. I never knew that. They call it a parachute kid. Usually this is a teen who's left home and is hosted by a family in the United States to attend high school or college. Imagine imagine the load of that teenager or that college kid coming to a new world, separating themselves from family, mom, dad, brother, sister, just to pursue a better life for their loved ones at home. That takes a very strong person. And I was astonished. I was like, wow, a parachute kid. That's, and then I'm like, okay, it makes sense because he's landing and getting something, he's coming to something that's better for his family at home. So I don't know where it correlates as a parachute kid, but it was interesting. I wanted to share that.
So are you saying that immigrant children, how young do you think they can come in? At high school age? It sounds like a high school age.
Maybe getting closer to the late, into the 18, 19 age. I would assume.
So it sounds like they can come in and almost be fostered within a family, an American family, so they can pursue education, go to college. And that's, that's huge. That's a huge sacrifice. Mm-hmm. Not only sacrificing leaving everybody and everything that and everybody that you love, but also, can you imagine the amount of pressure on this child that you better not fail because your whole family depending on this. Your success is going to feed the whole family, even just a community, because your success, the amount of money that you're going to make through your success is going to feed a lot of people. And that's a lot of pressure. Those children, they have to grow up so fast, mentally, emotionally, even physically, because as you know, probably, if they're 14 or 15, they can actually work, get a job, go to school. And that puts a lot of, could be construction, could be landscape. And those kids are going to grow up so fast and not be able to experience, what if, right? That's number one. Number two, can you imagine them as parents? Can you imagine them as parents? I wonder how they're going to raise their kids and how they're going to change their value system.
Right.
To raise the next generation. And also I'm sure that they're thinking about it as, this is a great opportunity, because if I end up getting married and having kids in the United States, my kids are going to become American citizens and first class citizens, and then they're going to have a better life than me. So they don't have to sacrifice as much as I do. Hopefully they'll be able to do that.
I was thinking more the things that these kids are being exposed to, because you're being hosted by a family who are United States citizens, right? Let's say, and they have a child that's the same age, and they introduce them to drugs. And I feel like these kids are more prone to have drug abuse issues because of the fact that sometimes they want to substitute missing their family to have a good time. I just feel like they're easily a subject to drug abuse and alcohol abuse.
Oh my God, yeah. Because the effect of that experience on mental health it can, those high expectations from these children can actually translate into depression, anxiety, mental health challenges, and legal challenges too. Like you said, if they feel that, I can't cope with this, or even as simple as, I can't focus in school, I can't concentrate, something's wrong with me, I'm not performing well in school, and end up taking ADHD medication. ADHD medication is very addictive, right? Yeah. So having, and it doesn't make you feel good. I know because my youngest brother took it, I think the last year of high school, senior high school, for 3 weeks, and he hated the way it made him feel. But I can't even imagine these kids trying to, fend for themselves and trying to figure out, okay, what do I need in order to perform? What do I need in order to compensate? What do I need in order to adapt? Not only you have the pressure of adaptability, new world adaptation, also the acculturation, it's almost like they're going to be on a mission, and they will not or cannot allow anything interfere with that mission. That's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure. It is a lot of pressure. I also from the same San Jose State University, over 258 million people in the world do not live in the country in which they were born. These people, called international migrants, represent approximately 3.4% of the world's population. So I feel like there's a lot of immigrants in this country, and it's very undermined, in my opinion. It's what makes up most of this country.
Yeah.
And it's very sad that, we get lost in translation somehow, and we don't have enough of support from the community and stuff like that to be better. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very unfortunate. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, it always goes back to the mindset, right? Stereotyping, we're constantly in the echo chamber of stereotyping, meaning that we are almost, you feel like you're in this sphere and we get bounced around. The stereotype that just keeps bouncing back at us. It doesn't matter what we do, how much we do, whether we overperform or we get addicted to approval because we want to be approved by the new society. But it is a lot of pressure on I can't tell the natives, but they're not natives, obviously, but the people that are already here, I've been here about 38 years in the United States, and seeing, for example, a team member coming in from another country trying to settle in. For me, I do struggle to understand, why are they not doing it this way? That way it's a lot easier. They're taking the hard way. Right. But we need to understand that I did that when I came here. And also it's not that easy, put yourself in their shoe, because these days in the modern world, things might be easier because we have the social media and the technology, but also certain things are a lot more difficult. That human connection is not there anymore. That tribal support is not there anymore. You're looking for strangers for support because you left everybody behind. Yes. And that affects the family dynamics. So going back to how the adaptability and the process of adapting changes the family dynamics. You must see it in your nieces and nephews. You must see it in Rodell. Mm-hmm. So are there certain things that you carry on with you from what your parents have taught you, and you try to teach it to your son, but your son is like, no, I'm not going to do that. But you believe, it is the right thing to do. Or you see it within your nieces and nephews?
I just feel like our culture is kind of it's not the same anymore. These kids nowadays, they think it's weird to follow our culture, or they don't think that, with what's going on in the world right now is even necessary to follow a certain, culture that we have, whether it's, learning how to cook. My niece is like, why do I need to learn how to cook? I don't want a man, or I don't feel I'm it's not about being with a man. That's culture wise. That's us saying, or my mom, maybe she heard it, you know, you have to learn how to cook if you want to find a man. And she's like, I don't need a man. I can get my own money. You know, these are the things that these girls are thinking about. Or, you know, I'm going to have so much money, I'll get someone to cook for me. I'll have a private chef. You know, I was not thinking like that at her age. I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to learn how to cook because I'll be a wife one day. But they don't even think about that, you know? Rudell, I'm like, you know, you gotta learn how to cook, buddy. He's like, I'll have a private chef. I don't need to learn how to cook. And it's like, you know, these things that we this is our culture. We want to make sure these kids know how to cook and defend for themselves, but apparently they think they got it all together, so.
Well, thanks to social media, right? Because AI right now makes everything possible, and it makes things look so much easier and practical and convenient. But the reality is the world is not AI. Maybe it will when Rodell has children. It could be all robots. I mean, I think China installed like tens of thousands of robots in hospitals now. So you don't need nurses. Yeah, they bring the patient in, they check them in, they are creating robots to take blood pressure, So it's going that way, and you're absolutely right. The world is such a small place right now because of social media and technology, and these kids are so well connected. Where, you know, when we grew up, when you're in Brooklyn, you had no idea what's going on in Saudi Arabia. When I'm in Saudi Arabia, I had no idea what's going on in the United States or Brooklyn. So unless I watch a movie or we watch the news or we get a letter or we get a phone call, but that's it. But these kids are on all the time. But do you feel like it is a good thing or is it not so good thing? Is it impacting the family dynamics of us as immigrants in a better way, or is it separating us and it's teaching the new generation that, you know, just take care of yourself, don't worry about family, you know, everybody's going to fend for it, you know, for their own. You're not responsible for anybody. Just like I said, just be responsible for yourself.
Yeah, I feel like we're losing that a little bit. I feel like we are, you know, I feel like this generation it's all about them. You know, it's not even like about being united as a family. Like, yeah, they like that. Of course, my nieces love when we're all together, but it's not something that they think it's important. I don't think, like, their mindset is not like that, you know, and I try to tell, because Rudell's still young, I try to put that in him that yes, it is important to be with family. You know, sometimes it's not, you don't want to always be around family because then that's when drama happens and everybody starts getting mad at each other. But it is important to look for each other and call each other, make sure that you're okay. You know, do you need anything? That's important because at the end of the day, that's all you have is family. You know, yes, there's friends that you can consider family, but at the end of the day, it's not the same, you know? So you want to make sure you keep that culture that your family has.
Yeah, I call it the almost like very schizophrenic dynamics. You want to be with them, but you don't want to be with them because sometimes it can be very intrusive, very overwhelming, very overbearing, you know, like your mom smothering you with all the love and protections, like do this and do that. What do you need? What do you need? I constantly was like, okay, I need a quiet room so I can actually, you know, reorganize my thoughts, Mom. I just need a minute, right? But I'm here for you. I'm here for you. It's like having a helicopter parent, but not. My parents didn't care of holding my hand in every single step, but they were watching all the time, watching, judging, criticizing, you know, and that makes us who we are. But it's interesting what you said about the new generation. They know that family is important, but it's almost like they want to do it their way. Yeah. You know, they want to recreate the concept of family dynamics. Right. And that's the tendency of the new generation. Don't tell me what to do, but tell me what to do. Like, I'll hear you, but don't expect me to apply that. Don't expect me to use that all the time because I'm going to figure out my way. And they are very creative in so many different ways, more than I could have been creative in their age too, because again, they're growing up so fast because they are exposed to so many ideas and so many concepts, in the media, even by just playing game, even if your son is a gamer, my nephews are big gamers, and they're very, very smart. I mean, they're tech savvy. They are very, they're hustlers. They know how to, my nephew rented a house in undergrad, and he had roommates, and he collected rent from his roommates to pay his rent. I know he's like 22 years old. I would never, ever thought to do that. Like, I would say, oh my God, first of all, I'll be too proud to say that, I'm making money because no, I have money. I can spend it. And number two, I'll feel embarrassed asking for people to pay for the rent, knowing that they know that I live in the same house and I make money. They paying for my rent. I mean, if you think of the concept, it's brilliant. And he made it through college with that. Now he graduated and he's working and he's fine. But they are so resourceful and they're very clever and they're very, very creative. But it is still important for us to preserve the family values and the family dynamics. And I agree with you, when the tough gets going, there's nothing like family. I hate to say it. I don't care, what kind of relationship you have with these family members. But does Riddell respond to the family gathering the way you expect him to respond? Does he value that?
I think he does. Yes, I do. I think he does. He loves to be around his family, like his cousins, his aunt, even from his dad's side. He loves when his grandma comes over and his aunt from, his dad's side. Like, he's all about family. And that's because he sees that I am that way too. And, there's another thing that my mom never really told me, like, I love you. And I am consistently smothering him with I love yous. And it's something that I want as a culture. That I don't know if that's considered a culture thing, but I want that to continue, where when he has kids, he smothers them with love, because I feel like that's very important. When you didn't get it, you want to give it. So I don't want him to get it and then not give it because it was just too much. I just want him to know that that's important to do. And that's something that I'm like doing with him.
No, I agree with you. My parents never celebrated birthdays. My parents never said, I love you. My mom used to call us my loves, come here, my love, do me a favor, my love. Maybe because she wanted something. I don't know. But no, my mom, kept having kids until age 41, when her doctor found out like her blood pressure's through the roof and she miscarried, number 6. But she loved children. My mom was a teacher and she believed in the children and the childhood, early years development. It's very, very important to implant that, confident love, security, protection, safety, knowledge, education in the child. And she believed that that's the most important part of any child's life is those early years, how you nurture the child. But she wasn't she used to hug us and kiss us and stuff like that, but she would never say, "Oh, I love you so much, more than the world." She never really smothered us with these words. And I am very affectionate. I mean, you see me, guys, with your children, and I'm like, oh my God, you are so cute. I love you so much. And I give them hugs and stuff. And maybe it's a compensation because I never had that, or maybe because I've been around, children all my life. My mom being a teacher, being principal, and then I worked as a full-time nanny. I worked in a daycare, and I was going to be a pediatric dentist too. That's how much I believe that, every child in the world has a fundamental right to peaceful world, safe place, love, tenderness, opportunity, equal opportunity, and inclusivity. But when you think about it, I know we're deviating off the subject. We're getting off the subject. When you think about 140 million war orphans exist in the world. That's really, really sad. But, who knows these kids, what they're going to end up doing too. I mean, speak of family dynamic, it doesn't even exist. But going back to, being an immigrant, do you see the discrepancy? Like, how's the dynamic between Rodell and his grandma, your mom?
They have a hard time connecting, and I don't know if it's because my mom knows English, but sometimes it's hard for her to communicate. She understands it more than she speaks it, and Rodell barely speaks Spanish at all. He understands it more than he speaks it, so there's a little disconnection there a little bit, but he loves his grandma, he loves being with her. He knows that she likes when he's around. So I think that's why he always comes with me when we go to see my mom. I think, he appreciates that she wants him there, so their relationship is like, it's in the works because he's, learning how to speak Spanish and understanding. I'm trying. I haven't been the best. I should have done that when he was smaller, but I am trying to now speak to him more in Spanish so he can learn certain words where he can at least kind of like have a little conversation. So, I mean, it's not where it should be. And maybe it's because it's a language barrier. That's what I think.
So how about his relationship with his other grandma? Is there another grandma in the picture or no?
Yes.
Okay.
That's mom. And I feel like their connection is a little bit better because she speaks English. Yeah. And my mom has a lot of health issues, so she doesn't go out as much. And this grandma, his dad's grandma, she takes him to stores. She'll take him here, so I think it's a better relationship there in that aspect because the language barrier again.
So is grandma with benefits?
Yeah, grandma with benefits for sure.
See, I told you they're so clever. They do know. No, I'm serious. I mean, they know exactly what and who is going to serve them well. I did not have in my generation. We are taught to treat everybody the same.
Yeah.
These are the elderly in your family. Not just because, my grandmother, my dad's mom used to make me my favorite cookies and save them for me when I came to her house. It's like, you're my favorite. It was none of that. And if my mom even heard us say that, I don't like this grandma, I don't like this aunt, I like that aunt. Oh, we'll be like, somebody, yep. Is somebody cruising for boozing?
He knows better not to ever say something like that.
So good. He's being diplomatic, very diplomatic. Maybe he'll be a politician. Oh my God. Can you imagine? Learning from these relationships. So do you have any concerns regarding your nieces and nephews? I know your sister is older and your brother is younger, or your brother's older? You're the youngest.
I'm the youngest of, so I didn't mention this in the other podcast we did, but I have two younger siblings. I have a younger sister and a younger brother, but that's from my dad's side. So I'm the youngest of three from both mother and father. Okay, let's get that out there because I didn't mention that in the other video. So, yes, my sister, in total, I have a younger sister. She's the youngest of all of us.
How old is she?
She is 20. Oh my God. She's going to kill me. 23, 24.
Oh, she's very young. Yeah.
Yeah. She's the youngest of all of us.
So how do you see the difference in the family dynamics? It's almost like a whole different generation. No?
Yeah. It's definitely different. She just got engaged. And she did not want to, she had this all planned out. This is something that I didn't think about, but she did. This is the dynamic. This is what I'm saying. It's just the generations are different. She wanted to make sure that she was engaged before she moved in with her partner. I said, I don't think that's the best thing. I think you should learn who your partner is before you get engaged and all that. But this is how she did it. And she's now engaged. She moved in with her partner and she's doing great. And they're going to get married next year. I said, that's another thing. I feel like that's very soon. You're getting married like the next year, but this is all new generation stuff. So.
No, it's funny you mentioned that because I know I've been here since 1988. So my generation, we got married like that. We didn't think about it. It's like, oh, you like that guy, you went out a couple of dates, let's get married. All right, let's do it. Right. And you build your life with it. It might be successful, might not be. It's unfortunate for some people, but that's how we did. The majority of the people did it that way. Right. Then you have the kids that went through. So we went through the 80s, and us kids that grew up in the 80s. In the 90s, we got married like 22, 23, just like your sister. Mm-hmm. And then in the 2000, that almost stopped. People are waiting and waiting until they're like early 30s, mid 30s. But mm-hmm. now you're right. I notice it that the trend is coming back. Younger and younger, people are ready to commit and they're ready to tie the knot, which is fascinating to me.
I think it's strange. I'm just like, why aren't you living your youth? Like, why do you want to get married so fast? And then as for me, like you said, in the 2000s, we were like, by the time I'm 30, like, I need to be married. I need to have a house. And these kids are not thinking about that. They're like, yeah, I could have a house under my name. That's fine. But I'll marry, I'll marry my spouse and then they'll have their own house and we'll come together. It's like, they're mostly thinking about themselves. It's not, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, it is a good thing, but I don't know.
It's different for sure. So how old is her, fiance? Same age?
Same age.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I mean, we're talking about, these are men that believe still in the constitution of marriage, and that's fascinating, especially these days. You don't really need to be married these days, honestly, because there are so many things that you can do together and so many things you can do independently. Right. And it's okay. So it's not like a codependency kind of need to survive in society. Remember, marriage and all the family dynamics or all the belief system that we grew up with, it was created by society because society needed that to protect us, needed that to help us thrive, to survive through life. Right. But you don't need that these days because you can have a partner and you can live forever with that partner, be a domestic partner, and the laws have changed too. But do you think as immigrants, do you think there's a pressure on these kids, or it can go either way? It can go either like, I'm never getting married, I just want to do my own, or it's like, no, I really want to get married, I want to feel safe, I want to have that protection, I want to have the support.
Yeah. I feel like she definitely got that pressure from her mom, my dad's wife. I feel like she did have that pressure from her because she wanted her to be engaged before she moved out of her home to be with this man. So at the same time, yes, she wanted that, but that was coming also from pressure from her mother. Like, you can't move in with this man unless, you have a ring on your finger. That's pretty much what, the mom was implementing into her, which was kind of like pressure for her. She was like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm engaged and I'm ready to be fully committed before I move in with him, because that's
so she just tapped in the traditional gender role expectation.
Right.
And that kid is following through.
Yeah. And he comes from that culture as well. So that's another thing. He comes from that culture. He's Dominican too. So he relates to that. If it was like I would say another culture, then maybe that wouldn't really fly. I don't know.
That's interesting because they were born here. They grew up here, but yet the family dynamics are so powerful and impactful that it actually, it's becoming part of their belief system. This is the right way to do it. This is the way. And this is the right way to do it. And that's how we're going to do it. And I noticed that a lot in the more conservative, even white American communities. Yes. In Northern California, Washington State, Wyoming, Montana, very, very conservative. Yeah. And they are going back. The new generation are going back. Our coach Eric, he lives in Northern California, and he tells us that the new generation, his kids' generation and younger, they want that to come back. They want the household, family, wholesome kind of life, doing things the right way and doing things in order and not just live randomly. It's like, okay, if I feel like getting married, I'm going to get married. If I feel like I want to live with somebody, I'll live with somebody. Right. That was more in the early 90s and stuff, but I wish I've done research to know what brought that back. It's almost like the trend is back. You know how we go into fashion, like the 90s are back these days. And I don't, 2 years ago was the 80s are back, the style. And now that style is coming back, but it's fascinating how these kids actually believe that, those values are recycling back into our society, and especially as an immigrant. Like I said, these kids are born here, so they don't have to submit to the traditional gender role expectation or their parents' belief system. But it seems like they're following suit, and
I wonder if it's because, their parents are from like my era or later, where it wasn't really such a thing to like, get into a relationship or I don't know. I wonder if that comes from like their parents and how they were raised. And
yeah, but that's fascinating though, Gisselle. I mean, to have those young couple, like I said, submit to that gender role expectation, the traditional way of doing things. That's fascinating. I mean, because growing up in this country, you're not obligated to do anything. You have the right to do whatever you want. But it sounds like your dad's wife made sure that within that environment of this family, this is the expectations, right? And it became part of her, daughter's belief system that no, this is the only right way, and that's the way I'm going to do it. And right. I wonder, it would be so interesting to find out how she's going to raise her kids.
That is interesting. It is interesting. Yeah. I wonder how she's I believe she's gonna be very overprotective. Just like her mom was overprotective of her. Because she wasn't even able to sleep over our house. That's how protective her mother was of her. So it's interesting to see that dynamic. Yes, for sure.
My mom, I totally relate to that because my mom was the same way. Well, we were not allowed to spend the night over her sister's house. And I would tell her, Mom, just go to bed. I'll be there next morning, because we're just watching movies, eating popcorn, talking. We just fall asleep. It's especially the summertime or the weekends with my cousins. Right. But she said, no, I don't really care how late you guys stay up. You're coming home, and she'll be up all night until the morning, until we are home in our beds. And she will not sleep. She goes, I will not rest if one of my kids are not in their beds. And I'm not sure, honestly, until this day, and my mom unfortunately has dementia in a nursing home. She's 85. And I don't know until this day something must have happened that gave her that, fear of something is going to happen. It could be the fact that, she immigrated from Jordan to Saudi Arabia. And I used to tell her, Mom, this is your sister's house. You've been there like gazillion times. There's nothing going on there. Nobody comes in, nobody comes out, basically, because in Saudi Arabia, you're completely gated and that's, her sister was married to the second tier of the royal family in Saudi Arabia. So there's a lot of protection. There's like drivers outside. There's a guard house outside, huge courtyard. We had the help in the house. So you cannot hide. There's no privacy.
No, Dr. Salva, it's like you said, it's that mistrust. When you come from one place to a new world, even if it's safe, it's still, new, and it's a mistrust there. So maybe something did happen, maybe nothing happened, and it's just her coming into a new world and just not being trustworthy of it.
That's a really good point. It might be just what if.
Right.
And
Right.
my mom is very analytical. She's the math mind, the number minds of my family. My dad was more like the creative writing, the artistic side.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're right, because she's almost like she will get through like the paralysis of analysis. She overanalyzed everything because she was the mother bear. My mom is just so overprotective, not only over us, even her nieces and nephews. She took on, when my aunt didn't have to raise her kids. My mom was there all the time,
Right.
because she's the older sister and stuff. But again, it's very cultural. It's very traditional. She felt like that's her duty and that's her responsibility to help her sister. I'm just going to take over. And even my cousins, they will obey and respond to my mom's command much more than their own mother. And that undermined a lot of their relationship with their mom, because they just didn't have the respect and they didn't have the admiration that they had for my mom. My mom personality was much stronger, but I feel like she should have given her sister a chance to raise her kids. But that's a way it is. And it's funny because she was an immigrant. She displaced herself from Jordan to Saudi Arabia. It's not like a huge difference in culture. There's a little bit, but just coming from Jordan or Saudi Arabia to the United States, it's a huge difference, or from the Dominican to the United States. So what would you say to a young couple that just got married in DR and they're coming to the United States? What would the advice be in order to keep that family dynamic intact?
Well, I would tell them to continue to live the culture. Make sure that they bring all their traditions with them, because they could definitely get lost in this new world of, social media, just constantly live stuff that's in your face every day. You could definitely lose what has been in your family for so many years, which is the culture of Dominican Republic, and making sure you're always with your family, checking your family, keeping the traditions of holidays, just how you cook your meals, and make sure you bring all that with you and hold on to that really tight. Because in this world of new world is what we call it, you could definitely lose all of that if you don't hold on to it tight.
Absolutely. And it's so easy to lose that. You can lose it without even paying attention. All of a sudden, it's almost like it's running water. It's like, I don't have that. Like, how did I lose it and not, hang on to it? I agree with you 100%, but I know social media has a huge impact on the new generation, and that's where they get their ideas. That's why they get their inspiration and aspiration. And sometimes I believe that probably they use social media to reassess their own belief system. Yeah. How do you deal with that with Rodell, social media, and how do you keep that, family traditions and custom intact?
Well, for one, he hasn't been exposed to social media like that. The most he does is YouTube. So I don't think he's actually had that, interaction with social media so much. But once he gets older, that I can't prevent him from it much longer. But I will make sure that he knows that what he sees on that screen is not always reality. And reality is what we have, which is our culture on a daily basis. And I am going to make sure I implement that.
That is beautiful. I agree with you. In order to keep that intact, it needs to be regulated for sure. And, I'm a fall too. I mean, I can get caught, Instagram and posting this, but it's like, oh, let me read this. I'm getting ideas. Yeah, you're getting inspired sometimes, but it's almost numbing of the mind. And I agree, as immigrant, we're trying to keep our tradition intact, our custom intact, so we can transfer that power to, the next generation. Otherwise, to keep it alive, that's the only way to keep it alive. And it's a beautiful culture, and it's colorful, and it's exciting, and it's absolutely mystical, and, some of it is very exotic, and it's very important for him to keep that attention, because you never know, keeping that attachment, that thread of connection to the DR, he might, want to visit, and maybe as a teenager, as an adult, he might like that lifestyle. So it's nice to keep him as a hybrid, instead of either or. He needs to be this and that. He's an American and Dominican.
I show him videos all the time, of country living. I show him videos of there's this little lady that they record her, and she cooks homemade meals on a stone stove, with wood. And I tell him, this is how this lady lives on a daily basis. She does not have a regular, maybe she does, but I tell him she doesn't have a regular stove like mommy has here. Sometimes they don't have running water, and they got to go down to the river and get water. And I'm like, these are really people that live like this. So I want you to understand that this is our culture. One day you're going to visit this, and I want that for him.
Good for you. That way he'll have the tools and the skill to relate to that and to be compassionate, because the last thing you want for him to go to the Dominican and he is not compassionate, or he's not empathetic or sympathetic with, it's like, oh, this is not the way we do it. We're in America. I used to say that when I went to Jordan. It's like, Mom, why are they doing this that way? My mom used to nudge me, elbow me. It's like, shush, keep your mouth shut. They don't have what you have.
Right.
And they haven't been blessed with every opportunity that we had. So this is the best they can do. And I would say, I don't want to eat that. It doesn't look good. Or, it's like, how can you cook it without, conventional stove? I agree with you. And those are family members, So we had a variety of very affluent family members, and unfortunately not so, blessed family members. So, but my mom used to sit us down. It was like, listen, not everybody's like you. You are lucky, and you are blessed to have what you have, and you need to be a little bit more compassionate to the people that don't have what you have, but also that way you'll appreciate what you have. And I hope that makes sense.
It makes
for sure.
Yes.
All right. Unfortunately, we are coming to the end of our hour. Thank you so much, Gisselle, for coming on, and I cannot wait we got so much to talk about. We haven't even scratched the surface, honestly. But just as a reminder, these episodes are uploaded every single Wednesday on the Apple Podcast and Spotify, but they're also available to you guys to watch as a video on our YouTube channel, the Greenwell Dental Partner YouTube. And if you like this content, please let us know so we can continue producing these episodes. And if you would like to share and hit the notification button, that way you won't miss any episodes. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. This is Slava, the Jordanian.